Hello, this one will be a general gentle practice, repeating some of our usual moves, with the purpose of trying to get awareness and movement to every little corner of our bodies. So let's start lying on a long roll blanket. So something like this where you have maybe a towel or a couple towels or a blanket that can support your hips, your spine, and your head. So if you are someone that is a little more rounded in the upper back and your head tends to tilt back like this when you're lying down, you might want to create another little ripple there on the blanket to support your neck, or maybe having an extra layer, another towel or pillow. And we're going to just take a couple moments here to surrender, right? Because we come from doing things during the day and we have this sense of maybe not being completely connected to what's going on. So let's do that now. Arrive. So start noticing your body mind. Start relaxing your body and allow the blanket to hold the center. So you can let go of your posture muscles. You can soften the shoulders. You can feel a little more grounded. And from there, start getting deeper and deeper. You notice what is in your mind, the impressions that you had from the day, your mood, if there are any recurrent ideas. Feel all that, all those fluctuations. And we're trying to create a state of observation that is equanimous. So we are noticing the things that maybe we don't like so much and the things that we like a lot with kind of the same attitude. And maybe it's not completely evident right now, but when we start moving and maybe having sensations that we don't particularly enjoy, we pay attention still with that same intention. And we know that way how to make an appropriate action in response. Draw your attention to now the breathing movement as it is moving naturally in your body. And so using the breath as a point of concentration. Today or any other day could be something else that you're choosing to concentrate in. There's nothing particularly magical about the breath, but it's just that thing that it keeps happening in our bodies, right? You're always breathing. It has this movement to it, so you can keep noticing all those fluctuations. And so your mind keep coming back to that. And when you notice that you drift away, the practice is to return. And it matters how you return. And see if you can really simply come back every time that you notice that you are not paying attention. Simply come back. Lovingly, kindly, no fight, no regrets, no judgment. The breath may start getting a little more fluid, deeper, calmer, but see if you can just let it be. And then take a couple more rounds of this, coming back to that point. And then we're going to start making the breath deeper, longer, more complete. So as you take your inhale, you're drawing the breath down into the lower belly and even feeling it in the pelvic floor as it relaxes those muscles. And then lift it up into your mid, upper back, expanding those ribs in all directions, feeling the collarbones, the chest getting wider. And as you exhale from the top, start feeling that wave of contraction, of as pushing the lungs to take all the air out, eventually bringing tone to the lower belly and pelvic floor, taking all the air out. And so then from that seat of contraction in the lower belly, you start expanding again all the way to your top in this second round. And exhaling again all the way to the bottom. And so progressively, with each breath, you start finding your own depth, right? We're moving away from a habitual breathing, so it might take a little effort, but also see if you can make it pleasurable, enjoy this deep expansion and deep contraction, this sense of elongation, expansiveness, inspiration that happens with the inhale, and conserving that sense as you exhale skillfully. You keep the spine long, your chest open, and you work with those abdominal muscles to take all that air out. Couple more times. So we establish that breath here when it's relatively easy or easier. So then when we start moving, we can come back to it. We know how to return. So if you don't have your salsa feet on the floor, let's bring them in that position, your knees on top of your heels. Maybe with that, you reposition your pelvis so it's a little more neutral. And let's take a moment to feel the spine. And we'll try to go a little more towards the sense of length and flatness in the back. So notice your own back body and see if you can feel the back of the pelvis grounded evenly on the floor. If it's not, if your tailbone feels really tucked and lifted up to the ceiling, maybe you need to create a little tone on the front of the hips to flatten the back of the pelvis more. If on the other hand you are arching your lower back and pointing the tail to the floor, maybe you can push the floor with your heels, activate your hip extensors, your glutes, and your hamstrings, so your pelvis gets into a neutral position. And then come up to your mid and upper back, and it's the same idea. A lot of us are more flexed in those areas, so now we might need to create a sense of engagement in those muscles in the upper part of the spine to create that sense of elongation and openness in the front. And the neck tends to be arched, but all of us do different things. So, don't take this as a general, like everyone does this, but again, a lot of us have a lot of tension in the very, very top of the neck, and maybe that neck is a little too flat, too arched, too lifted from the floor, so you can make it a little longer. And more than anything, feel like you're making the spine long. The crown of the head reaching overhead, the tail reaching towards the other end of your mat. And then release all that and notice what happens when you are not doing anything. And repeat it a couple times so you can recreate that sense of flat, long spine, and noticing what you need to do, what type of efforts you need to create. And here on the floor, it's a little easier because we have the help of gravity, right? You have the floor behind you, you have a point of reference. When we do it in other positions, sitting up or in hands and knees, for example, it takes a little more awareness, a little more control. So this is a good place to play with it. So then we can feel a little more familiar with those positions and that engagement that you need to work on. Right. So I'm going to try to keep a sense of that long, flat back. So a little bit of that effort, an effort that you can sustain, and bring your arms up on top of your chest with your palm facing each other. So as you inhale, we're going to try reaching with the fingertips up. And so maybe you feel a nice stretch in between the shoulder blades. And exhaling, release the shoulder blades down, and maybe you go a little farther to try squeezing the shoulder blades around the blanket. Inhaling, reaching up, and exhaling, bringing them down to the relaxed position, and then a little farther squeezing in. So these two movements, protraction as you reach up, retraction as you squeeze the shoulder blades back of the shoulder blades, it's a good one to have, to notice, to know that you have that ability separated away from the movement of the spine, right? So just pure shoulder blade movement. Another thing that we can start doing here is to really coordinate the movement with the breathing. So then we can start using that skill with the rest of the practice. The next time you reach up to the ceiling, keep reaching and start inclining the arms so eventually come closer to being by the ears, right? But we want to keep the lower back flat, so notice that. And then bring the arms back on top of the chest. So keep your elbows extended straight as much as you can. And play with bringing those arms overhead as you inhale. And exhaling, returning. So maybe each time that you do that, you notice a little more movement. You start unstacking layers of muscles that are a little stiff. You start noticing the connection of your arms to the sides of the torso. You start noticing where you want to compensate by arch in your back when you bring the arms overhead and try to fight that intention, right? Like you keep your lower back nice and flat against the blanket, and you work on that shoulder mobility. The next time you bring the arms overhead, start spreading the arms out across. A good opportunity to maybe even bring in the forearms a little more down to the floor, spreading the chest, reaching down to the feet, try moving those shoulders away from the ears. You get a nice little opening of the upper traps, reaching up to the ceiling, and again overhead, inhaling in those positions as you're a little more open to on the chest, and exhaling as you're a little more closed. Let's do another one fully. And then we're going to bring the arms across and find a place where you could feel your forearms, elbows, hands resting on the floor. It may be a little tough, right? Like you feel that stretch, but notice if you have to keep the elbows lifted, maybe you need to change the angle so you can relax those arms. So then you use the weight of the arms and the fact that the center of your body is lifted to create a passive opening in the front body. So keep studying. If you can let go of your arms a little more, if you can relax the shoulders down, if you can maybe even breathe more into those upper parts of your torso to create movement internally as you're in this open chest position, open heart. Take another full breath. And release all that tension. We're going to take an inhale and exhaling, roll to the right side, remove the blanket and return with your back to the floor. And let's bring the knees up to the chest. I'm going to do a couple apanasanas. Exhaling, squeeze the knees towards you. Inhaling, moving the knees away. I like cupping my knees with my hands. So when I move the knees away from my chest, my arms extend and my shoulders are pulled away from the ears. As I bend the elbows, I keep them in. I keep the shoulders away from the ears, trying to squeeze those knees in. Right? So we're working on the legs, the hips, the lower back. They're stretching it and releasing it. But at the same time, have good awareness of what you're doing with your upper body. And try keeping those shoulders down. Yeah. I'm going to bring one foot to the floor, the other foot to the floor. So now your feet are hip width apart, parallel to each other, your heels under your knees. Have the arms by the sides. Try sliding the shoulder blades a little bit away, towards each other, behind your back. But then spread the arms out. So that right now it's not so much about your arms as we start articulating the spine coming into bridges. We're going to lift up, lower down, articulating the spine. So when you take an inhale, stay on the floor. And as you exhale, press the floor and engage your glutes and hamstrings. So your legs are supporting all this back bending. And you're lifting up. Actually, it doesn't really feel so much as a back bend because you're pointing the tailbone high and rounding the lumbar spine as you lift it. Because then when you're higher, your lumbar spine starts changing, but then you started with a nice long low back. Come to the top, take a deep breath in, and then exhale in, come down from the top to the bottom as you keep the tailbone lifting. Right? So it's like moving a heavy chain from the floor. You're lifting it up from the tailbone, and so the rest stays heavy on the floor as you lift. When you get to your top, take a deep breath in and expand the rib cage. Open the chest. And exhaling from the top to the bottom, that same way, like someone is holding the tail and you're bringing each segment down at a time. The next time you lift the hips up and the spine up, let's bring the right arm up overhead. As far as is reasonable there in that position. And when you lower down, take an inhale at the top, exhaling, lower down, turn the head to the left and reach with the right fingers. So you're moving the right shoulder away from the ear, you're getting a nice mobility on that side of the upper back and neck. Look up, lift the spine up on exhale, lift the left arm up. Take a deep breath in at the top and exhaling down. Right, and then maybe you want to repeat that one more time on each side. Look up, inhale, exhale, tuck the tail and lift the spine one vertebra at a time, right arm up. Lower down, turn the head to the left as you exhale. Looking up, inhale, exhaling, lift, left arm up. Inhaling at the top, turn the head, bring the arm down, lower the spine, articulating. Nice. And then look up, bring your knees to your chest, and do a couple of Apanasanas again. So in case, sometimes we have tendencies to use some parts of the body more than others, even though we're trying to do it evenly. In case your lower back got a little tight, you have a chance there to feel it and create a little more stretch, a little more roundness. Okay, we're going to keep the knees to the chest. I'm going to grab the left knee with the right hand and the right knee with the left hand. Okay, so I'm going to keep that back as flat as we can, right? Elongating through the back of the neck, keeping the pelvis heavy on the floor. When you're ready, extend the left leg so the left foot is hovering, and the amount of, or the distance from the floor depends on how much you can control keeping the lower back stable. Bring the right arm overhead and think of reaching in opposite directions. Good, take an inhale. Exhaling, bring the knee towards you. Take the knee with your right hand. Now extend the right leg, check that out. Feel like your core working, your lower back flat. And when you're ready, bring the left arm overhead and reach in opposite directions. Take a full inhale. Exhaling, bring the knee towards you. So I'm going to keep doing that. Left leg, right arm. Take an inhale. Exhaling, bring it back in. Nice. Let's extend the right leg, left arm. Maybe you do exhaling, bringing the belly in. Take an inhale. Exhaling, bring the knee in. Let's do one more round. Left leg, right arm. Take an inhale as you elongate. And exhaling, bring the knee in. So your core should be working, right? You have to activate that center to keep the lower back flat. Nice. And do the crossing of your arms. Bring the knees to your chest. And maybe now you do some circles in opposite directions with the knees. Maybe in the same direction too. Nice. And then bring your right knee to your chest and the left foot to the floor. So the left foot is going to press the floor, right? So you make it active and you feel the back of the left leg engaged. The right knee is going to come on top of your hip. With your hands, press the top of the right thigh, right? So you press a little, you put a little work there. And when I take an inhale, as we exhale, I want to try to work on bringing the knee a little closer, but you don't let it with your hands. And with around the same amount of effort, press the left foot against the floor. Notice that work. Left leg is working towards extension, right leg is working towards flexion. You release that effort and you try it again. Exhale, knee towards chest, left foot pressing the floor. And release. So notice the work that you have to do when you're engaging those two areas and when you release, what happens the moment that you get in your spine and your pelvis. One more time. Pressing and release. Bring the knee to your chest. Grab the back of the thigh with your hands or maybe with a strap. And let's do big, smooth circles with the toes in the air. So the movement is coming from the lower leg and the ankle, but also maybe you work on moving the toes and getting the bones moving inside your foot too, getting a nice stretch in the soles of the feet and in all those angles. Good. And then let's work on extending the leg a little more, but this time point the toes and open the front of the foot. Bend the knee, and as you extend the leg, try lifting the heel. Bend the knee. As you extend the leg, now try lifting the outer edge of the foot. Bend the knee, and as you extend, you're trying to lift the inner arch up. Bend the knee, squeeze your knee to your chest. Bring the left knee up to your chest. Take a breath. And then bring the sole of the right foot to the floor and the left knee on top of your hip. Your hands, your arms are pushing the thigh away as you try bringing the knee towards you. You don't let it move. The right foot is going to press the floor with around the same amount of effort that you're doing with your left leg. So take an inhale. Exhale, start the work, pressing the thigh into your hands, pressing the right foot against the floor. Hold it for around 6 seconds. And then we'll release. Take an inhale. Exhale, do that same thing. So we bring a little more evenness to the work on each side of the pelvis, these cross patterns. Sometimes it could help reposition your hips a little bit better if you're having a side joint pain or some other issues with your back and pelvis. Pressing the thigh into your hands, pressing the right foot against the floor, and then release. Nice. Bring the knees to your chest. And let's rock forward. Oh, actually, I forgot one side. Yeah, so we're going to work on this leg. So grab the back of the thigh. And we're going to lift the foot. And let's do big, smooth circles with the toes in the air. So when you notice that some areas are not moving so well, keep trying gently, right? Instead of avoiding it, keep investigating what's going on. And keep breathing, smooth, deep breaths, even when you are concentrating deeply, right? Or you start thinking, see if you can come back to this sense of awareness that is calm, connected. Okay, and start extending the legs. So let's try extending the knee a little bit and point the toes. Bend the knee, and as you try extending the leg, lift with the heel. Bend the knee, and as you extend the leg now, lift the outer edge of the foot. Bend the knee, and as you extend the leg, lift the inner arch. And release. Now, yes, let's bring the knees to the chest and roll forward. Let's come into hands and knees. So your hands are right under the shoulders, your knees are right under your hips, your fingers are spreading, the index is pointing forward, the rest are spreading out, your palms are wide. Let's just take a moment to walk those very open hands alternatively, almost like you're doing this with your feet, right? That same idea. You lean a little bit one way, you lift the other hand, and every time that you bring the hands down, work on widening that palm, spreading the fingers. So you maybe feel the activation of the forearm muscles, as well as a little stretch. And as you keep doing that, walk or turn those fingers out and keep going until you find that place that is reasonable for you, where you find some stretch. Maybe the fingers can point towards your knees. And maybe you need to bring the knees a little closer so you have less weight on your hands. Or you could shift the hips back to stretch a little more those forearms and hands. Let's try pushing the floor, keeping the chest lifted away from the floor, and slide the shoulder blades away from the ears. Take a couple more deep breaths. Right. And then bring the hands in the normal position. Okay. With those nice open hands, these strong shoulders, push on the floor. So we're working on that protraction, right? The shoulder blades slide away from the spine, but the spine stays relatively neutral right now. Let's start doing extensions and flexions of the spine. As you inhale, back bend. So chin lift, sitting bones lift. And as you exhale, engage your glutes, your hamstrings to tuck the tailbone, to point the tailbone down, to round the spine evenly. Bring your chin to your chest too, elongating the back of the neck. Inhaling, arching. Slide the shoulder blades back a little. Exhaling, rounding. Tucking the tailbone, rounding the spine. The shoulder blades can slide a little bit up to the ears, apart from sliding away from each other. Inhaling, arching, and exhaling, rounding. We're going to arch one more time on inhale, so that from there we can create a neutral, flat back. Okay, so you bring the navel in, you try to feel this line of the back of the pelvis and your lower back nice and long. And it might be relatively easy or reasonable right now with all the limbs on the floor, but it might start getting a little challenge when we start lifting limbs away from the floor. So let's actually, before we lift anything, work on breathing here and keep refining the sense of engagement on that deep layer of the abdominals to create some more stability on the spine. And it's not only that it needs to work, you have to work with your glutes, with your legs, with your arms to find that place. So inhale and find a longer spine, maybe even like thinking of elongating, reaching. Exhale, bring the belly in and hold a little bit of that tone as you take an inhale and you expand a little more in all the other possible areas. And exhale, you bring the belly in and pelvic floor up a little more. Inhale. Exhale. Right? And you start noticing what things get fatigued, what things need to keep working. Is it even on the right and left side? You have to work a little more on one side. Take another deep breath in. Exhale, bring the belly in. And then take an inhale, bring the big toes to touch. Let's come into child's pose. So start bringing the hips back, hinge well from the hips, and then allow your spine to round and extend the arms, bring the forehead down. Yeah, so this could be a nice stretch for the shoulders. You're feeling that back elongating, maybe your lower back and your hips get a good stretch. If flexing so much from the hips is not possible, maybe you're in a more rounded seated position. Taking a couple more breaths. Okay, and then let's come back into hands and knees. And you reestablish a neutral spine, maybe through creating a little more of a back bend and then coming back. Draw the navel in. Extend the right leg back, tuck the toes under for a moment so you have some support and you reconnect to that core and to engage the right glute strongly. So then when you lift the right foot, you're using the back of the leg to lift and not your lumbar spine like that, right? So keeping that belly in, keeping your body relatively square to the floor, and then bring the knee to the floor. Okay, re-establish your length. Extend the left leg with the toes tucked, and then see if you can lift the left foot without using the back. And then bring the knee to the floor. Okay, open the knees a little wider. Draw the belly in, long spine. Let's try bringing the right arm. You're trying to lift it by the ear. It's hard. Keep it extended, palm facing in. And again, notice that challenge. Bring it down. When you're ready, reset everything. Lift the left arm up. Right? Core engaged, long spine, strong legs. Bring the hands to the floor. Okay, let's do it a little faster if you can, right? Like, so noticing if you can challenge that speed a little bit. Lifting the right leg. Maybe you can add the left arm and now have both limbs and you have to balance there. And then bring the knee and hand to the floor. Bring the left leg up and the right leg. And bring them back down. Lift the right leg and left arm again. Inhale as you lift. Exhaling, lowering. Keep feeling that center. You don't want to move it. Lifting. Lowering. Nice. Take another child's pose or sit on your heels. And kind of let your body soften, but also give yourself this moment to integrate all that. Your nervous system, your brain is kind of, processing all that information. And then come back up into hands and knees. And now let's challenge a little twisting, right? And I know that sometimes twisting is not that great, and it could push you out of balance. So find a level of twisting that works for you, or that you feel like you're aware and controlling the movement as much as possible. So the first initial part, actually, of starting to work with this instability of almost twisting is to lift one hand and having that right hand behind the head, pointing the elbow out, right? So you don't have a limb on the floor, your whole body has to adjust to that. So that is already working towards the same skill that you need to twist. And then slowly start pushing the floor with the left hand and lift the right elbow up as far as it's reasonable as you keep your hips relatively squared. And exhale, bring that right elbow down towards the floor again, as far as it's reasonable, especially for that first one. Let's repeat that 2 more times. Inhaling, pushing. It's a lot of work for the left shoulder. Stay strong. Bring that elbow down. 1 more time. Inhaling, lift. And exhaling down. And then bring the hands to the floor. If you need a little moment, that left hand, yes, do another little stretch. And then let's reset and hands and knees to do the other side. So work on that neutral spine. Bring the left hand behind your head and you notice that challenge. And then on inhale, you start turning to the left. Exhale, turn to the right, left elbow lowering down, but it could be very small until you feel like you start activating more and you can maybe go a little deeper. Inhaling as you lift, exhaling as you lower. Inhale and release the left hand on the floor. Let's bring the heels to the hips or sit on a couple of blocks. But in this shape, you can also sit cross-legged if you prefer. And let's work on the shoulders, chest that have been holding us there for some time. So let's spread the arms out. Lift the fingertips up. Reach with the heels of the hands out. Slide the shoulder blades away from the ears. And now let's make a fist slowly, starting with your pinky. Flex your pinky, keep the rest of the fingers extended. Then your ring, then your middle finger, then your index, then your thumb. Point the knuckles to the floor, bring your chin to your chest, lower the shoulder blades maybe a little more. Lift the head, spread the hands again. And lower 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Knuckles to the floor, chin to chest. Lift up, spread, open. Yeah, reach and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Point the knuckles to the floor, bring your chin to your chest. Then lift the head up, lift the knuckles up. Hold that for a moment. Keep breathing. Bring the knuckles down to the floor. Hold that for a moment and keep breathing. And then spread the hands open. Nice. Inhaling, lift the hands up. Exhaling, bring the arms down. Spread the arms out. And let's work on eagle. Bring the arms forward, right arm under. Elbows one on top of the other. So either grab your shoulders and sliding the shoulder blades down, or clasping your hands and sliding the shoulder blades down. But see if you can maybe bring the forearms a little more forward, right? That protraction too. Big stretch. Release the neck. Yeah. And then take an inhale, exhaling, bring the elbows towards your belly. And bring your chin towards your chest. Without rounding your whole back, it's more that upper portion. Take another breath. Way up there. And inhale and release. Spread the arms out and up. Exhale and bring the arms out and down. And bring the left arm under. So clap your hands. So set the hands on the shoulders. Elbows up, shoulders down. Reach forward with the elbows or your forearms. Keep your neck long and breathe through all those sensations. Now that you're opening space in the area in between the shoulder blades, see if you can research that part with your breathing. And keep releasing any tension that you find, any excessive effort, right? Always working on that balance between effort and easiness. So we can test it a little more with the breathing. Is your breath smooth, calm, deep, still? Then bring the elbows down, bring your chin to your chest. Nice. And lift the head, spread the arms out, inhale, up to the ceiling, and bring the arms down. Okay, if you need a little break from the feet, let's actually come into hands and knees and tuck the toes under and take a moment there to feel the back of the feet stretching. And then maybe you bring the hips back. Maybe that's enough. Maybe you sit on top all the way. Find a place where you don't need to be so tense in the rest of your body, right? So you slowly open all those fascial tissues and muscles and tendons and ligaments. I mean, not that you want to stretch your ligaments, but, get them to move. Okay, bring the hands forward. Tops of the feet down. Let's take another seat. And let's do this one now. We're going to extend the arms forward, round that upper thoracic spine, bring the chin to the chest. Maybe you can even bring the hands in prayer, right? So rounding, rounding, kind of a similar sensation that we had in eagle. But then let's bend the elbows, squeeze them in so they touch the sides of the torso, and bring those shoulder blades back, keep them down, and open the chest. Exhaling, reaching forward, rounding that upper thoracic spine, chin to chest. Inhaling, bring those elbows in, open the chest. Yes. One more time. Exhale, reaching. Inhaling, elbows bend, squeeze them in, open the chest. And exhaling, release. Right. Now let's sit on the hips. Bring the legs in front. We're going to keep the knees relatively soft so you're on your heels. Again, every time that we do things like that where we're sitting on the hips and you know that your lower back, your hips are a little tight, sitting on something higher, it's a great idea. So you have a little help from that lift. And this higher could be even on a chair, right? So if some days you feel really tough, really stiff, you can do that. So we're gonna open the legs a little bit wider on the hips, and let's turn the legs in, both at the same time, so the knees and toes point in, so the midline, and turn them out. And just feel the quality of the movement of each leg. Think of moving from the hips. You know, the feet might want to be the leaders. See if you can feel that the movement is starting from the control you have in your hip. So turn them out and turn them in. Are they moving equally? Do you notice more restrictions on one side than the other? Nice. And then come back to center. Let's actually go, one leg is externally rotating, the other one is internally rotating, and then the other way around, right? And check if you need to bend the knees more, if you need to bend them less. What is the place that allows you to be relatively comfortable to explore these two movements? You know, it's just a movement that we need to have, right? Right and left, internal and external rotation, keeping those hips healthy. Nice. So then we're gonna bend the knees a little more. I wanna work into a little more. So when I can have those hands behind, I'm gonna turn the legs a little more to the right, come back to center, turn the legs a little more to the left. You can widen the distance between the feet a little more. So this is the beginning, right? You could have the hands behind and you can stay here all the time, having some support. If you can sit a little more upright, maybe you do this, keeping yourself engaged in the core to stay lifted. You go right and left. Yeah. Then maybe some of you might want to even side sit in one direction, and I'm rolling off the blanket. It might be a little harder if you have a very narrow blanket like I have to stay on it, because you tend to move with this one and you might need to come back on top. Yeah. As far as it's reasonable, right? Like you don't need to be moving as much as I'm moving right now. Right? Once you've done enough to each side, let's bring the hands behind the thighs with those knees bent. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, point the tailbone under, round your back like in a cat shape. Bring your chin to your chest. And on inhale, bring the chest forward, open the chest, feeling like your spine is longer and flatter. Exhaling, rounding. Inhaling, working towards extension, right? You probably won't be super extended, super back bending, but working in that strength on your back. One more time. hold the long spine position and extend the left leg on the floor. Bring the right foot just a little bit in so the outer edge of the right foot is following the line of your hip. We're going to grab the knee, squeeze it in, so we use again those hip flexors with the help of the hands to sit upright, and then turn to the right as far as is reasonable. Maybe it's a little bit, maybe you go a little farther, you bring the right hand behind, you try squeezing that thigh towards the midline. Try keeping both sitting bones down. Keep your left leg active, extended. And then come back to center. Nice. Extend that right leg, bend the left knee. Check again that your outer edge of the foot is in line with your hip. Squeeze your thigh, activate your right leg. And then see if you can just turn the torso a little to the left. Maybe you stay there, maybe you go a little farther. Perhaps the left hand comes behind the back. And as every time that we twist, we are working on this sense of space in between your vertebrae, separating those joints as you turn, as much as you can. So we want to build this strength on the core that could cinch your body in and make it longer, right? Nice. Come back to center. When I extend the left leg too, and then find a place where you could fold in a way where your lower back starts the fold being relatively long, right? So again, you might need to sit higher even. So then you feel that you're sitting on the center of your sitting bones. So then when you initiate your fold, you're tilting the pelvis on those femurs. And I know that some of us have a little less hip flexion, so that is, it's not going to be there. So you have to choose if you want to just work at the end of that and you stay upright, or you want to round and just relax your body, even if your pelvis is not folding that much. You might maybe not want to push a super big fold if your hips are not really moving that much, because then you're overstretching your back, and maybe actually compressing a little bit to your vertebrae. So you find that place where you could sit upright, hinge your pelvis, and then fold. Okay? And then you allow at the end of that fold to make the spine rounded, but you started it with space on that lower back. And take a couple of breaths there, exploring the connection of your whole back body from the soles of your feet to the back of your head and even your eyebrows. Everything is connected fascially. So sometimes working in an area like, I don't know, your hamstrings could really help you release your back, or the other way around, because everything is pulling on each other, right? So you want to work on your body considering that, how everything is connected. Take an inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, bring the belly in, and inhaling, lifting all the way up. And from here, we're going to go back to the floor to Shavasana. So if you like, you're working on and you feel like you can control it and you're not compensating a lot, lowering down, rounding the spine, working on that coordination. You can go that way. If you need to just side, lie, and then come down, you can do that. Either way, we come down to Shavasana. You bring the knees up to the chest, take a moment to squeeze the knees to your chest, and take again your right and left side of your back. Tilt the legs to the left, open the arms, take a twist. Bring the right knee up, bring the left knee up. Take an inhale, exhale, bring the knees to the right, and do the same couple breaths.